What drove me in this process is I had a personal experience where I lost a daughter at 7.5 months of age due to a heart defect. And I expected to follow through the stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance that seems to be widespread across the Western world. And I found other people were also expecting that. And it just didn't fit for me, and it didn't seem to fit for other people that I was speaking with and who had similar experiences. So for example, anger. People would say, I don't have anger. So I started to explain, well, what is this theory that seems to not fit? And once I looked at the literature, I learned that, in fact, this theory was never intended for people bereaving the loss of somebody else. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in 1969 developed this theory for people who had cancer and they were facing their own death. And when I speak to people who have had that kind of experience, it makes sense. But when it's someone who's bereaving the loss of somebody else and they're going to continue to live on for many, many, many years, 40, 50, even 80 years in some instances if it's a child, this model just doesn't fit. Because I was going through my own process, about 2 years into the process, one day it just hit me that in fact I was going through a process that I'm already very familiar with. I'm in social work, and in social work most of my background has been working with people with addiction problems. And in the addictions field there's a very common theory of stages of change, it's called. It's a trans-theoretical model of change. And it just struck me that I was going through the same kind of process that I've been working on with many, many clients in the past. There's a lot of stress in not knowing what the process is going to look like. And a lot of stress in people having expectations that you're going through a certain stage or a certain process that in fact you aren't going through at all. So for example, it will look on the outside like you're doing much better. People think, oh, she's gotten over it, she's moved on. You hear those kinds of statements. Whereas on the inside, there's still a lot of process that's taking place. People don't realize that. Another really key important point is certainly immediately after the death, people are going through a major crisis. So there's a lot of supports in place, not enough funding for the supports that we do have, but certainly family and employers and even some social services are there for that brief period of time where you're going through that initial stage. And then people seem to be doing better, and then everyone seems to forget about it. Families moved on, employers moved on, friends have moved on, but the individual is still processing quite a bit. And in fact, there may very well be a second point that can occur years later where the individual is struggling with whether to move on from the loss that they've had. And it's very difficult because it's a period of ambivalence. You might feel guilty for leaving your loved one behind, but yet you realize this is something you have to do for your own health and perhaps the health of a new partner or new children you have or other children you have, other family members, etc. So I think it's really important that family members, friends, and employers are aware of the process so that they can be supportive throughout various different points.